New York has the worst congestion of any major city in the US. In a city with such high population density, millions of commuters, and an endless flood of tourists, is bad traffic just inevitable? Or is the city not properly addressing the problem? Maybe you've heard of congestion pricing. It's slated to start in June 2024 and projected to decrease traffic by 17%. But congestion pricing is just the latest chapter in New York's war on traffic. In recent years, we've seen increased bus lanes and bike lanes. But one of the earliest tools to relieve congestion is so effective, we hardly ever think about it: the traffic light. Before we started this project, we thought that traffic lights were really simple.
Green, yellow, red.
But as we dug deeper, we learned they're part of a massively complicated network that stretches across the 5 boroughs. There are 13,770 traffic lights around New York City, all of which can be controlled from a special location that we got to visit. What is this place?
New York City DOT Traffic Management Center.
This story is about a system that has been fighting to curb traffic for over 100 years. We're on a mission to learn what exactly is causing New York City's endless traffic. If we're gonna do a video about traffic in New York City, we should probably get in a car and go for a drive. According to the study that we read, to travel 6 miles in a car in New York City takes an average of 24 minutes. From our office to the Plaza Hotel and back is 6 miles. I gotta ask you a question. We're about to drive from here to the Plaza Hotel. How long do you think it's gonna take to get there?
I'm gonna go 30.
30 minutes, all right. Who has the timer, Alex?
And start.
This is gonna be like the one time I get into an accident. Go a little closer.
Testing.
You're natural.
That's your first time to do this. So my name is Rashid Rumila. I'm the operation manager in this center.
Is this place 24/7?
We are 24/7, 3 shifts of operation, 365 days, holidays, all time.
If there's no traffic lights in New York, or if they're not working, what happens?
It's gonna be chaos. Think about it.
Anytime anyone has to take a turn, they have to wait for oncoming traffic.
And one of the things that slows down the turns, honestly, is pedestrians, because they'll walk across and you kind of have to wait for them. Allie, while we have you, what do you think about traffic lights?
What feels great about traffic lights is like when you're going down Madison Avenue and it's just like green, 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 green. Like nothing feels better than that.
With over 13,000 signals, it's a pretty complicated thing for you to just keep up here.
Yes, this is all computerized. Every traffic signal in the city has about 5 different timing patterns during the day. We also have special timing plans for special events like at Citi Field or at Yankees.
Let's go Yankees, baby!
We time the signal before and after the game. All the traffic signals in the city are connected wirelessly to this center. So at any times, if you need disconnection of the communication, the operators working here, they can see it.
One down traffic light can really disrupt the entire system
yes.
and create gridlock all throughout the city.
It could be, yeah.
So the interconnectivity is super important.
25th Street, starting to enter Midtown.
The whole city, it's all roads, but for many New Yorkers, you're not actually getting in a car. Every day when I'm walking, I'm looking at cars, looking at trucks, everything. It's just so interesting to live somewhere where something that's so ubiquitous is something I don't actually use.
There's no way for deliveries to get made around New York without trucks.
They're trying to build a train line, a tunnel. Until that happens, every single item that gets sold in the city comes in by a truck.
This is nice.
It'd be sick if they had this if they had like an express lane in the middle of the city.
Yeah.
You sound like Robert Moses. We're genuinely stuck in traffic right now.
For the first time. Look at this, a sign for traffic light.
It's probably a good time to go back to the traffic management center. Okay, so this was the old system for tracking the traffic lights? And this is telling you what color?
When it's green like this, means you have communication.
It's working.
Just tell you it's working. This is the replacement for the one you see over there.
Yeah.
Digital. So the green here means we're communicating with traffic signal.
And if it's orange, that means the light's broken?
Yes, yeah.
How often does a traffic light have an issue?
Per shift, maybe 10 calls.
If a light goes down, what happens?
These guys here, they see it and they dispatch to the maintenance contractor. Usually the response time is about within 2 hours, but if it's the major intersection, we can talk to PD. They can dispatch traffic agent at the location.
One of the things the Traffic Management Center does is when they do see a lot of traffic in an area, they can help dispatch traffic cops. He's going faster than the cars.
We're probably crossing right now the time that we were supposed to do this in, and we're almost halfway there.
You know that feeling when you miss the light? That's that feeling. Is there a way to decrease traffic?
Encouraging people to use mass transit, so maybe biking.
That's one way to get around the city. This is the kind of guy that would have been driving a few years back in a Mercedes.
Congestion pricing, some people, they may choose to use the transit.
Those things over there, those are the congestion pricing tolls. This is a lot of traffic compared to what we've had up to this point. We're making our turn down. So we're at the Plaza Hotel, 59th Street. What do we got on the clock?
Coming up on 40 minutes.
40 minutes. It took us 40 minutes to get halfway. Hopefully the way down is faster. It's not looking promising though. There's a shitload of traffic over there. Okay, this camera looks like a speeding camera. It's actually a DOT camera, and their sole purpose is to help the Traffic Management Center observe intersections so they can relieve the flow of traffic. We actually saw one of these traffic cameras getting installed a couple weeks ago on the Upper East Side.
I'm Prentice Leary, and I'm a supervisor for electrical installations.
Right now, there's an installation happening.
This is a camera that we're installing at 79th and Madison. A good spot because we need to monitor what's going on in Madison and also the cross street of 79.
I've gotten stuck in traffic here before.
Yeah.
It's not good.
We'll go out, we'll go to these various locations, all 5 boroughs, so we'll be shooting around the city, trying to get the cameras up. They will call TMC, let them know your camera is up. They'll tell us we can see it, and we move on to the next camera.
This is pretty typical, but I'm sure there's some atypical places you've been to in the city.
The best location, the Brooklyn Bridge.
Yeah?
There's not too many people who have been on top of the Brooklyn Bridge Tower.
No, not too many.
On Brooklyn Bridge, so I like to watch this camera sometimes.
This is one of your favorites? These are all live feeds that are happening right now.
Yes, total camera we have 900.
Have you seen anything crazy on these cameras?
What do you mean by crazy?
I don't know,
Sorry.
you tell me. I didn't see it, you did.
We saw Sandy here, so
Yeah.
we were watching FDR drive.
Fill up with water. Yeah, do you drive to work?
Yes, every day.
Do you call these guys when there's traffic and say, come on, figure it out?
Guys, we're moving now. We're almost at the speed limit. This is extremely exciting. 25 miles an hour on the dot. Up, and just like that. Wow.
Can I ask you a question? Sí, en español. ¿De dónde son? Hay más tráfico en México. Sí, okay.
We just learned the traffic is worse in Mexico, according to those tourists that we talked to. Okay, 42nd and 5th, right back there. That's where the original traffic light in New York City was.
The original traffic light was installed in 1920. It was basically a shack with lights attached to it, a crude design that required manual operation. It was a gift from Dr. John A. Harris, a millionaire physician who was obsessed with traffic. Unsurprisingly, it was well received, and the network of traffic lights began to expand. There's this amazing New York Times article from 1922 about the signal's central control. It says a traffic dictator seated in the center of the city will press a button, causing scores of red lights to flash and halting tens of thousands of vehicles on the most crowded streets of Manhattan. Since 1922, the system of changing lights has become automated. But the article paints a picture of a room that looks really similar to the Traffic Management Center.
Macro takeaway, one thing that I'm thinking about is like, we grew up here. So that whole drive just feels very normal. It doesn't feel like slow or fast or just feels like standard. You grew up in Boston.
Probably the biggest difference is the volume of traffic. In Boston, you'll hit pockets where it's congested, but in New York, it's like you hit congestion, it opens up for 4 blocks, and then you find another massive patch of congestion.
So your job is basically problem solving.
Yes.
How does that feel?
So I feel like I'm accomplishing something for the city.
Yeah.
Each time I stop at traffic signal, I see my contribution. That I feel like proud of being on this team.
If everyone, pedestrians, drivers, cyclists, all followed the rules to a T, sure, we'd have less traffic. But that's not the culture here. There are so many people packed into a small space, and everyone's trying to get somewhere. New York City is New York City because it's practically bursting at the seams. All right, stop the clock.
Stopped.
Okay, that concludes our drive. What do we got? 106, a little bit longer than anticipated. Google Maps was like 30 minutes each way. I think we learned a lot along the way. Things went pretty smoothly, and I'm happy with our experiment.
When you don't have to get somewhere, it's not so bad to sit in traffic.